Within the niche sport of rollerblading, blading, aggressive inline, whatever you want to call it, the murky world of sponsorship has always been weird, contradictory, and in some instances, downright confusing. Here are some examples. First example, you can be pro for one of your sponsors, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're pro for all of your sponsors. Pretty much anyone can start an aggressive skate brand. All you need is an idea, some designs, and some disposable income. As a result, there are countless brands popping up, creating teams and valuing their riders differently to established companies within the sport. If you don't believe the aggressive inline industry is saturated with companies right now, all you need to do is look at the countless wheel companies we have. Some might argue we have too many wheel companies, especially when you consider that many of the brands use the same manufacturer and in some instances they even use the same mold. Don't believe me? Go on to any big rollerblading shop website, search for 58mm wheels. The number of options is wild. In recent years, frame companies have followed the same trend, with lots of new players entering the marketplace. In 2024, we now have an abundance of boot brands as well. What does any of this have to do with sponsorship? Well, because there's so many companies in the industry and so few of them actually communicate with each other, a skater can be pro for one brand and flow for another brand. One example is Hazen Bell. Earlier this year, he got a pro frame for Wish. Congratulations, but he's currently riding Flow for Blank. Another example, Alex Sams, he got a pro wheel for Deal with the SF earlier this year, again, also Flow for Blank. Martin Danning has a pro wheel out for Orange Wheel Company, but he's on the amateur team for Mesmer Skates. And everyone's favourite roof enthusiast, Stefan Brando, has multiple pro frames and wheels for 50/50 and Chroma, but when those products were released, he was amateur for Rosie's and later amateur for FR. Although in Stefan's instance, some common sense has been restored because he's now on the pro team for Standard Skate Co. Another instance of sponsorship in rollerblading being weird is you can be sponsored by two different brands owned by the same company and be on two different tiers. Again, what I mean by that is you can be pro for one of those teams, but amateur for the other one. It doesn't make much sense, but it's understandable when someone is pro for one brand, but not another when they're owned by different people. But how do you explain a skater being pro for one brand and amateur for another brand when both those brands are owned by the same person? A perfect example of this is Joey Lunger, who's pro for Undercover and has had 2 pro wheels out for the premium wheel brand, but yet he's currently on the amateur team for USD Skates, and apparently they've got no plans to move him up to the pro team. Undercover and USD Skates are both owned by Powerslide, both under the same umbrella, but Joey is on different teams for each brand. How does that make any sense? It's pretty weird messaging to say that they consider him pro to have a pro wheel, but not pro enough to have a pro skate. Another example is Nicola Torelli. He has pro wheels from Undercover, he's been announced as a pro for the MyFit liner team, but there's been no announcement of him being pro on the Powerslide Skates team. Yet again, multiple Powerslide brands, but yet he appears to be on different levels for each brand, or on a higher level for 2 brands, but not necessarily on one. It is all incredibly confusing. There are countless skaters over the generations who've worked their way up to become pro for a boot brand, but just because you become pro for a boot company doesn't mean when you leave or when that boot company ends or runs out of business that you are then pro for the next boot company that you join. Essentially, being pro for one boot company doesn't guarantee you're going to be pro for the next one you join. Don Bambrick was pro for Salomon and Mind Game, 2 of the most iconic companies in the sport. But when both the brands left the aggressive industry, Don was demoted to Flow when he joined the Razors team. Sure, he worked his way up, turned pro, got a pro skate, got fired, then joined USD and quickly got another pro skate while his Razor skate was still sitting in the shops, but he didn't simply leave one pro team and join another. It's got to be pretty demoralising to be on one of the best pro teams in the world. They run out of business and then the next team you join, they're like, no, we don't consider you pro level yet. You're going to have to work your way up. Other examples include Levi van Rijn, who was pro for Adapt, had 2 pro skates for the Dutch brand, and then when he joined Roces, he was, well, God knows what he was. Was he AM? Was he Flow? There was never an announcement that he was on the pro team. Thankfully, all of that's irrelevant now because he's now on the Mesmer Pro team and his new pro skate for the brand has just been announced, which looks very good, so congratulations Levi. Jo Zenk's another example of this phenomenon. He was pro for Rems and tipped to be the next skater to get a pro boot. However, when Rems silently stopped producing new skates or, well, anything, Jo floated around without a sponsor for quite some time and is now only getting flowed skates from Roces. There's been no announcement of him being on the pro team, on the AM team, nothing. It appears all he's doing is getting free product. Josiah Blee, who was also pro for Rems and was the last person to receive a signature skate for the company, although he never actually saw a single penny of any of the royalties from his pro skate, which is absolutely criminal.
If they would have told me, if I would have gotten a pro skate and they were like, yo, you're not getting a single cent, I would be like, this is an honor, I'm pumped. But I was like, I still am kind of broke, but I was super struggling at that time in my life. And he was like, dude, this will help out Rems. This will help you out. We'll get you royalties. We'll do all this stuff. He had he'd got my hopes up in a way, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then when the skates sold, I remember asking, he sent me a prototype and then 2 pairs of my skates, one that I could put on my wall. I remember asking him, and then one to just skate. And then I remember I skated those skates. And then when it came time to get another pair, he was like, oh, we don't have any more. So I was like, oh, sick. They must have sold, you know? So I was like, is there any chance I could get any money? And he was like, yeah, we'll wait till it all is gathered at the end, you know, when we sell all of them, so you'll get a bigger chunk. So I was like, sounds good with me. And then that day just never came.
He is now being flowed skates from USD. Is he buying his own skates? All I know is in recent years he's been riding a lot of Aeons, but they've never officially put him on the team, and he is churning out high quality sections. He is one of the best street skaters in the US at the moment, and it doesn't appear as if he's got an official skate sponsor. That's kind of crazy. Now that we're halfway through the video, I just want to give a giant shout out to my Patreon supporters. They are listed on the screen now. If you want to join the Wheel Scene Patreon, you can do so for as little as £3 a month. There's a bunch of videos on there that aren't on the Wheel Scene YouTube channel, and you'll be supporting me and helping to keep this going. Want another weird example of sponsorship? Winning pro contests does not guarantee that when you're sponsored, you're on the pro team, and it doesn't matter how many pro contests you win. Once upon a time, if you turned pro on the ASA Tour, you were pro. That was it. No questions asked. Those days are long gone, and competing in pro events does not mean you're a sponsored professional. Hell, winning pro events doesn't mean you're pro for any of your sponsors. If you want an example of this, look no further than Yarrow Frine. This year alone, Yarrow's come first at the pro event at the SPT Jam, first at the Capital Rose LDN Jam. He's got silver in fees before, silver at NL contest this year, and bronze at the World Skate Games. For the past couple of years, he's been exclusively competing in the pro event at international competitions, but he is still firmly placed on the amateur team for USD skates. Now that Nick Lomax has stepped down from his pro skater responsibilities, maybe it's time to bump Yarrow up. But it's not just skate companies making everything a little bit confusing when it comes to sponsorship. Just because a skater is sponsored by a brand doesn't guarantee they actually use their products. You see it in skateboarding all the time. You've got these exceptional elite level athletes sponsored by Monster and Red Bull and Rockstar or whatever. They do not drink those energy drinks. Their bodies are temples. They drink water. They do not drink stuff that's designed to destroy their liver. But it's kind of strange when that same mentality infiltrates the really niche culture of aggressive rollerblading. So just because a skater lists a brand as a sponsor on their Instagram account and tags them in posts doesn't necessarily mean that they use their products, at least not all the time. A pretty funny recent example of this is Julian Coudeau, who's riding for Somatics and had a pro wheel out earlier this year, along with a very good promo from Aunt Medina. But When he won both the bowl and the street event at the World Skate Games in Italy, he wasn't using Simatic's wheels. Standing on the podium, he can be clearly seen riding white wheels with metal cores. The only problem is, Simatics don't make white wheels with metal cores. Just in case there was any doubt, here is a photo of Julian doing a backside torque slide in the setup that he used during that event. Now, I'm no expert, but those look suspiciously like Famous wheels to me. Other examples include Nils Janssens, who could regularly be seen skating wheels which weren't BHC wheels while he was sponsored by the British Wheel Company and had a pro wheel out for them. And Bobby Spazov, who, despite being pro for Winbrand and again having his own pro wheel, could be seen skating wheels which were definitely not Win wheels during his period of sponsorship. What do you think about sponsorship in rollerblading? Are there any weird quirks? Are there things you've noticed? What works? What doesn't work? Let me know in the comments, and as always, thanks for watching. Speak to you guys soon.